No, there is
Okay.
no healthy imposter syndrome because at the end of the day, what imposter syndrome says is, I'm not qualified for where I'm at.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started. Okay, be it babe. Here's the deal. This episode is going to be one you listen to multiple times. I wanted to, in real time, rewind and re-listen. It's so good. Our guest is Mark Collins. He's the author of Life Mastery. And I really am obsessed with, there's always a lot of people who want to talk about imposter syndrome. This is the first time I've been like, yes, this guy actually really understands imposter syndrome and how to not let it master your life or take over. Like, he's so good. And he's got some great phrases that you will want to put on Post-its and read every day to remind yourself how freaking amazing you are and what you're here on this planet to do. So I am just fired up. I'll also just be really honest. Was the last Zoom call of a day where I started on Zoom at 6 a.m. And I was like, okay, who am I interviewing? Oh, I'm interviewing Mark Collins. Oh, I really like this guy. The interview does not disappoint. I'm so excited. Now, I will also say this. I'm a fast talker. If you already are good at listening to me at 1.5 speed, good job. But you may want to slow this down to 1. Because Mark Collins also can meet me at my speed. And so I recognize we're both fast talkers. We both recognize we're fast talkers. We could work on that, but also I think our brains are just going a little too fast. So you might want to put us on 1 or 0.75. You can do that in your app, but also feel free to rewind. And then also on our website, we have the transcripts of the show. So you can also go back, read what any of the parts are that you loved. And I can't wait to hear how this helps you. Please let us know. Please tag Mark. Please tag the Be It Pod. And here is Mark Collins. All right, Be It Babe. I am super excited because our guest today caught my attention when he talked about imposter syndrome and, how we can actually not deal with that and we can redesign our life. And as many times as I talk about, like, we have imposter syndrome, and often it's because we're new at something, so you're going to be an imposter. A lot of times we feel imposter syndrome when we're not new. And so I'm just excited for Mark Collins to join us today. Mark, can you tell everyone who you are and what you rock at?
Thanks, Leslie, and thanks for the conversation. I'm excited to be here. So if I was to give somebody a one-sentence scenario about what I try to do, what I tell them is that I help people to unlock and unleash their hero in hiding in their business, relationships, and life. We have strategies and tools to do that. But at the end of the day, my desire is to see the best of you come out and be the person you're supposed to be in all areas.
I love that. And that one sentence is like just really great words in there. How did you get into this though? I think before we get into how to unlock that and unleash that and all that stuff, what made you go down this path?
Yeah, that's a great question. People ask that usually about my book, Life Mastery, or the course that's titled the same as well. And I tell people this, Leslie, that I didn't do it because I thought I had great ideas for other people to live out, to be able to do those things, to maximize their life or whatever the thing is that there's their goal. But it really was something I desired for myself in walking through, my own personal development and trying to succeed in business or athletics or academics. What I found was some of those things you talked about, that imposter syndrome that came along for the ride. And what I found was you can't success away fear of failure or imposter syndrome. They just come along. And so when you're at that mountaintop and you've had that success, if it's a challenge that you've dealt with, and just to be honest, Leslie, I haven't met a person yet who hasn't had something apart from a transformational journey. I've met a lot of people, a lot of them have had the same issues that I had. So for me, it came from a place of finding transformational tools, being able to have more than just habits that I maintain, but a lifestyle that I could live. When you do that, you want to share it with people you know. And so it started informally and sharing with friends and having thoughts and ideas and telling them, hey, I've tried this, have you? And really started to formalize it in a system instead of giving them little nuggets here and there to say, okay, well, how do I help somebody get from A to Z, from bound to healed, or from stress to set free? And so that's where the course and the systems came from. It came from my own life first, and then the opportunity to work with so many others afterwards.
That's so cool. You just said you can't out success your imposter syndrome? What did you say?
You can't success away imposter syndrome or fear or anxiety or any of the other things that we do. And
You're correct. You cannot. You're totally correct. In fact, the more you
yeah,
try, the more it's almost like you have more imposter syndrome or more anxiety.
yeah. Well, and the interesting thing, Lesley, is a lot of times we think you can. We look for those people that are on our pedestals, whatever those are in your life, and we think, oh, he or she, they've got it all together. They can't have the issues and the struggles and the things that I have. And I just need to get where they're at. And all of a sudden, I'll be that person as well. Everything will work out, won't have any anxiety, won't wake up at 3 a.m. like I've had in my past. And you find out that that's not the case. And it's interesting when I'm always surprised at the clients that I work with that have those levels of success, right? Their nameplates on the door. They're the person who's doing great things, but it's the person that you don't know. It's the person, like I said, waking up at 3 a.m. So yeah, success is amazing. It's a poor substitute for identity, and it's never a place where you can overcome issues that are standing in the way.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, you're so correct. First of all, I find it interesting. You said something like we all like are like, okay, if I'm just like this person, then I'm going to be like this. Once I get to their level, then I'm going to feel free. And that is actually kind of the impetus of Be It Till You See It,
Yeah.
because I can't stand hearing when I have this, then I will. When this happens, then I will. I don't want to wait for that to happen. A lot of those things
Yeah.
are like kind of outsourced to other people. A lot of those things are like other people discovering you at the same time that you're
Mhm.
promoting it, and also deciding to buy the thing that you have at the same. Like, there's a lot of things in there, and so I'm like, how can I live like that right now? What if I was that person today? So that's what Be It Till You See It is, and that's kind of where it came from. And so I just had to bring that up because that's exactly what everyone does. Everyone was like, when I have this. I want to kind of go into for the person who feels imposter syndrome
Mhm.
on a regular basis. Not most of my listeners. Hi guys, I see you. Is there any imposter syndrome that is healthy? Or are there signs of imposter syndrome they may not know? Two questions there.
Yeah, that's a great couple of questions. And I think, is there imposter syndrome that is healthy? And to be totally honest, and of course I will be honest because that's who your clientele and the people listening want me to be. No, no, there is
Okay.
no healthy imposter syndrome because at the end of the day, what imposter syndrome says is, I'm not qualified for where I'm at, whether it's in your business or relationship, you're in the boardroom, you're creating something on your own, you're a creative individual, or you're just in a relationship, or you're a new parent, right? One of the most moments of imposter syndrome for me was having my daughter placed into my hands when she was born and knowing I'm not qualified. Well, unfortunately, in many cases, imposter syndrome is me saying I'm not qualified for this, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Whatever you've got as your item, that's what it is. And the truth of the matter is, as I talk to the people that I work with, it's in the thing that we talked about, your hero in hiding. I believe everybody has a hero in hiding. You have the person you're created to be, that be it person that you're talking about, and
Mhm.
you have the person that shows up. And it's either coming
Mhm.
from who you're created to be, or what your life has told you. Well, imposter syndrome is me looking at my past and having it inform my present and creating my future and saying that, well, because I wasn't able to last time, I can't do it this time, or because I didn't succeed in that business, I won't be able to do it this time. It's those thoughts that try and sabotage you, stop you, and control the outcomes that you have in your life. So is it ever positive? Absolutely not. But congratulations if you have it, because at the end of the day, I love people who do, because those are the people who are really reaching for something in their life. When
Yeah.
I'm comfortable and I've got all the answers and everything's working and I'm not too stressed, I'm not really trying very hard. Well, imposter syndrome isn't coming up because it's just me being chill. But it's in those
Mhm.
times and places, right? That man and woman who is reaching for higher ground. They're looking for that amazing goal, those wonderful things that they want to do in their life, that it comes up. But what we try to do is help them to understand, the one thing I tell you is, you're the answer to the circumstance you're walking into. You're not the question to be figured out.
Mhm. Thank you for that. I really enjoyed that. The whole answer. I mean, it's true. When I just had the moment of imposter syndrome earlier before this call, and it was absolutely because I was thinking, what if this doesn't work? And I was basing off of the things that haven't worked in the past. I totally did it. I used the past to
Yeah.
direct the present instead of going, actually, like, this is going to work because of all these different reasons. And also, if it doesn't work, I will absolutely take the steps to figure out why it didn't work and do it again. I know that about
Yeah.
myself. So it's really funny how it can sneak up upon us. And it's also because I really care. I really care about this thing is going to be and what it can do
Yeah.
for people. So you talked about becoming a dad, but can you share any other instances where imposter syndrome kind of affected you and how you handled that?
Yeah, absolutely. In business, right? So my wife and I, we've been successful entrepreneurs, and I'm sure, like in everybody else's business, there's those times when your output of finances don't equal your income coming in the door, where, it was a client-based business. And so your bills are static. They happen every month, whether you have clients or not, whether they make their payments or not, whether they're late or not. And so, of course, there were those circumstances where, clientele would dip because of recession issues, challenges with whatever, right? Everybody has challenges in their life, but the bills are still coming in. And in those places, for me, it was that point of saying, I don't know if this was the right decision. Those things, when things aren't going well, then all of a sudden you question whether you're making the right choices. And if I could unpack something really quickly. So what I tell, again, like I said before, if what I tell people is that you're either living from who you're created to be or what your life has told you. Well, we all have a past and a life that's told us something, many somethings in our life. And what we talk about as a foundation of life mastery is starting from identity, who you're created to be. And in that place, you start to unpack and see some things in your life. Well, this guy who's got financial challenges, right? Like with every business, it's not all roses and sunshine. And in that place, you hearken back to understand who you are. And that for me was a young man who was struggling in school and having challenges with mathematics and, some of the things that you're doing academically. Well, that young man at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old who was struggling in one of his classes, well, there's an identity statement that comes along with your experiences. It's never just your experience, but what's the experience tells you about you. Because we all have good and bad that we walk through. But the challenge is, what does it say about you? What's the identity statement that you're taking from it? So that young man who's struggling in school, believe it or not, I don't know about the schools you went to, but the ones that I went to, they didn't look too kindly on you if you couldn't cut it academically. And certainly your friends and the people around you let you know that. Well, that young man felt like he wasn't as smart as everybody else.
Yeah.
So fast forward, identity statement when you're an adult, still succeeding, still doing great things, right? Got my bachelor's degree, have a successful business, but then there's a financial downturn. And what happens is those thoughts come in your head. Imposter syndrome is another form of identity sabotage. It's saying this, you're not good enough. And in that place, what do you go back to? Oh, okay, well, it's because you're not as smart as, you're not as qualified as, you're not as good as, or whatever the thing is you're telling yourself. And so for us, it's understanding, how do you unpack it so you understand the truth? See, the truth of that young man was he was temporarily academically challenged. He wasn't somebody that was defective. He wasn't somebody that wasn't as good as. Come to find out, when I went to college, I took mathematics all the way up and passed all the way through calculus, which at that time was the highest level of math you could qualify for. Well, certainly I wasn't somebody who wasn't as smart as everybody else. Even though you succeed afterwards, those identity statements come along.
Yeah.
And you know this, Lesley, right? Because you know people in your own life or people in the TMZs and all of the people that are famous where they try and overcome who they believe they are by the success they have, but they sabotage themselves and ruin everything.
Yes.
So it's always you showing up as who you are. And success, as I said before, is just a poor substitute for identity. But when you start to live from who you are instead of what your life has told you, now all of a sudden you're unleashed into the world as a person you're created to be.
Yeah, I want to live more like that all the time. Is that possible? Like, is it possible to live a life without imposter syndrome and fully as who I am and not what my past is?
Yes,
it is.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is it something that takes a long time to is it deprogramming? How does someone kind of identify those situations of what stories are being living themselves by? And also, it sounds like there's coping mechanisms. Like, it sounds like success is a coping mechanism for the thing that they're trying to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'll take the last one first. And what it is really what we've all been taught, or we all have assumed, right? So whether it's media or family or experiences that we've walked through, we've all assumed that when I've, gotten that trophy or got that level of income or have that amazing car in my driveway, well, now all of a sudden, everything else is gravy. Everything works out. We look at the outside of somebody without understanding the inside. And so it's not any harm or foul by anybody. It's just, this is kind of the system, which is why, by the way, my book is called Life Mastery, Living Life by Design, not by Default.
Yes.
What I tell people is that everybody I know, apart from a transformational journey, is living from default. And it's that place of understanding that if I change my outward, it'll change my inward. When the opposite is true, when I change my inward, everything outside of me changes. Another way of putting it that I tell people is, when I understand who I'm created to be, my world lines up. When I don't know who I'm created to be, my world has to make up the difference. And so I have to succeed to feel worthy. I have to have a relationship to feel loved. I have to have income to feel like I'm a person of value. And so
everyone has to rewind what you just said, because you just said something, the way that we're wanting the world to see us, like if we're waiting for the world to pour into us. That is, I think, how a lot of people are feeling right now. Like I've had so many people who are reacting to so many different things that are outside of their control. And they're like, this is going to affect me this way. And this is going to affect me this way. And I think that's human nature. But what you just said is that if we actually come from ourselves, then we don't feel that way. Don't feel out of that control. Am I correct?
So exactly. So if I don't understand who I'm created to be, if I don't understand my identity, then my world has to make up the difference.
Yes.
And it is that place of default, which is what we've always been shown. It's what is highlighted on social media. And there's no harm or foul in any of it. And certainly not for us in trying to use it. But what we find, as you found as well, and I know in my life also, is it doesn't work. Success is great, right? But at the end of the day, if success is all I have, then it's empty when I get there. Yeah. And it lasts for about 10 minutes and then I have to do it again. Yeah. I think of a client of mine who had and is having multi-million-dollar transactions in the real estate and business development field. And for him, it was that thing where success was a relief. It wasn't a celebration because, again, those thought patterns, the imposter syndrome, the fear of failure, those things that come along with it, really every success was just a momentary ability to prove that you weren't somebody who was going to fail at it. The problem is it never changes you. It just gives you a momentary satisfaction that you have to repeat over and over again, the hamster wheel of success. And so if I could talk to your first question, can you get over imposter syndrome? Can it be something that you don't struggle with? Absolutely. That's actually the goal that we have in our course. A lot of the systems that we use are to give you the transformation. And I make the designation of change versus transformation. Okay. Because when I was trying to figure it out in my own life, trying to become the person, right, that man on the inside that I believed I could be, that wasn't always showing up. And I didn't plan on being the guy that was stressed out, sweating through my pajamas at 3 a.m. It was just part of the anxiety and issues that came along with it. But I always believed there was somebody more. Tried personal development in a lot of ways. And the problem with many of the programs that I did, they all give you results and they all have benefits. The challenge is that many of them give you habits to manage your life. Manage your anxiety, anger management, say these mantras, bludgeon your thoughts over until they come into alignment with what you want to be. The problem is they never work. And here's the reason why, Lesley, because the habit I use to get there is the habit I have to maintain to stay there. And that doesn't sound like transformation or freedom. What it sounds like is exhaustion. Because I don't believe that we have to maintain habits to, again, bludgeon my thoughts into aligning with what I'm trying to believe I am. But what I do believe is when you live from who you're created to be, when you know who you are, then that's the easiest life possible. What I tell people is this: it's the easiest life ever, living from a place of life mastery, because it's literally me just living from who I'm created to be at the highest level I'm created for in every area of life. What's exhausting is life management, which is me trying to attack my thoughts when they happen. It's that life by default, right? It's trying to attack them when they happen, expect that they'll always be there. Even to the point where I had this conversation with somebody who was 8 or 9 figure, a multimillionaire, amazing person. And he said this, he said, with every business transaction, fear of failure comes in and I have to wrestle with it. And he says, I guess that's just part of the process. It just drove me crazy because the truth of the matter is that we're not meant to deal with fear of failure. And again, if you understand who you're created to be and live from that place, it's the easiest thing. I don't have to measure up to be who I am. I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to accomplish things to be who I am. I actually have accomplishment because of who I am, not to prove it. And in those places, you kind of have tools and strategies. We can talk about some of them, but the truth of the matter is there's a better life.
Okay. So I wanted to go into, I got really intrigued with life mastery and you kind of covered that a little bit, but I wanted to go into a couple more stories because I know my listeners, they see themselves in other people. And some of the things you brought up, I've seen myself and I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely have been life managing. I want to life master. This sounds so much more fun. You've coached over 500 people. So I feel like you have to have a couple other transformative stories for us to hear about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think of a young man who highly successful in business, working within the government, and he was doing great in his job. The problem is he wasn't showing up at home. And so here's the interesting thing that you and I know, Lesley. It's that we think we can compartmentalize our emotions. And when I have stress at work, man, I'll just compartmentalize it. When I get home, I can be that bubbly personality that I'm supposed to be. The only person who thinks that is the person who's trying to do it. All the rest of us realize that. And so for this guy, he was having success in business. But with him, again, living from who you're created to be or what your past has told you. For him, it was having a past that told him that relationships aren't safe. I can't trust other people, which is fine when you're single, but when you're married, it really doesn't lead to a great relationship.
I'm surprised he got married.
Yeah. Well, you do these things that you believe you're supposed to do, and it's the things that you're trying to do. And even in business, the interesting thing is with people who are highly successful, the people I work with want more. They just don't know how to get there. They're like, this
Mhm.
can't be everything. But
Mhm.
the challenge is, so even in relationships specifically, he wanted more in his relationship. He just didn't know how to get there. And so part of it was unpacking some of those lies and the issues that you've had of not being able to trust and therefore not being able to give. And in that place, showing up as a provider in his household, but not engaging emotionally, relationally, or substantially within his household. It's that person you talk to, but you can't really read, you can't really
Yeah.
understand. And so for him, it was unpacking those things. It's starting to understand when I can show up as who I am. Well, I tell people this, Lesley. When I understand who I'm created to be, my wife doesn't have to make up the difference. When I
Mhm.
don't understand my identity, she does. And it's in every
Yes.
relationship in all times, which
Yes.
means we need to be good for me to be good. And there can't be stress or issues or challenges. I can't feel, we can't have a hard conversation because that could affect me, right? It's in business as well, in boardrooms and relationships with superiors and people that you are overseeing or business and trying to deal with clients. The offense of other people in relationships can undermine you when you don't know who you are. When I know who I am, then I don't need you to prove it to me.
Yeah.
And so for him, it was that place of being able to say, no, there's whatever the relationship is, I'm a person of worth and value. And in that place, you can give more of who you are when you're not worried about the results.
Mhm. Mhm. I There's so many good things in there. I think that especially the couple thing, like the we have to be good for me to be good. Embarrassingly, I'm going to admit, you guys, I have been binging out on some dating shows because they're not stressful for me. I'm not dating. I love my husband. We're good. And we have a really lovely, healthy relationship. I don't need him to be good for me to be good.
That's awesome.
But what you just said there, I watch and I'm like, oh, that's how I can tell who's going to make it and who's not. Cause I'm like, that person needs this person to complete them. And these people are just awesome on their own. You can see it, right? So I agree with everything you're saying there. I want to talk to the person who's kind of just beginning to recognize their battles with imposter syndrome. I think that a lot of people can get pretty far in life just dealing with it. Cause,
Yeah.
especially if you put yourself in the right place, like you get a job, you do the thing, you can kind of not skate through because it's not going to be fun, but they're just beginning to deal with it. And now they're feeling it. And once you feel it, it's kind of hard to not feel it anymore. Is there anything that's in your book or any tools that you have that could help them start their journey to the life mastery that you've been talking about?
Yeah, I love that. So the book is a mirror of my course called Life Mastery. And so the tools are in both. What I tell
Mm.
people about my book is I call it the quick start guide to life mastery. So where the course is all the bells and whistles, the one-on-one coaching and some of the other things that we have, you're able to take some nuggets in each of the chapters of the book and apply them. And what I tell people is you can read something today, apply it this week, and find transformation this month. And so in that area, it all starts with this, Lesley. It starts with identity. Who are you created to be? And
Mm.
so very early on, we're going to start to unpack understanding who are you apart from your things. And those
Mhm.
things that we're talking about is your position, it's your title, it's your income, it's your possessions, it's the things that we believe make us. We don't really say that they do until they're taken away. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's, oh, okay, I lost my job or my business is failing or whatever the thing is, right? And many times we think that because I am okay on the outside, I'm okay on the inside, like I said. So the very first thing we do is say, okay, well, let's take away all of that and find out what's left, your
Mhm.
character, your value, your worth. And for us, we tell people to write an I am statement. The statement
Mhm.
starts with I am, everything else you fill in the blank. I am a
Mhm.
person of character and worth. I'm a person of strength and value. I'm a person who finds answers to challenges. I'm a person who overcomes every problem that I face, or whatever the things are that are yours. Those are some of
Mhm.
mine. It's the person that you are showing up. As I told you earlier, the thing I said was, you're the answer to the circumstance you're walking into. You're not the question to be figured out. When I understand who I
Yes.
am, I realize I'm the answer, which means that I'm fully capable in every circumstance. Doesn't mean every circumstance is amazing. Doesn't mean I have answers to every question that's going to come up. It means that I'm confident that I'm able and fully able to do everything I need to become and create a positive outcome to that situation.
Oh my God, Mark. Oh my God. I want 1,000 Post-its to put I am statements all over my office because I just want to see them all.
Yeah.
And I want to read the transcripts of my own podcast because you have way too many good quotes in there. You have such good things for, like, there's a nugget for every person who's listening. You guys, you can rewind this and listen again. There's just so many good little nuggets you can chew on and think about. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. So, what's the outcome of that when I start to show up, right, and start to believe I'm that person? What people don't realize is not just this cool mindset hack and this positive affirmation that I'm telling myself when I'm speaking from the truth of who I am, then now all of a sudden we could get to the neuroscience of it. And I don't need to. I'm a little bit nerdy sometimes, but here's the truth of the matter. I tell people this, and it's one of the strategies we use as well, which is mastering your thoughts. I tell them, Lesley, who you think you are, you'll become. And so what happens is when I come in as the person who's the answer to the circumstance, not the question to be figured out, now all of a sudden you have those empowering emotions like confidence and assurance and all the things that will bring answers. And so cognitively, you start to get answers, you start to find ideas, you start to get these solutions that may happen and the things you can do and strategies and ways to navigate and to do those things. When you come as a person who's like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I'm not sure what's going to happen. Oh, this is a huge problem. I don't know how we're going to. Now all of a sudden you get disempowering emotions like anxiety and fear and worry and stress. And again, speaking about neuroplasticity, you have those chemicals that come into your body. It's the fight or flight or freeze scenario where you're like, okay, well, stress happens. Or when I was walking through my life mastery journey early on, anger would come up because, oh, I can't believe whatever the things that are happening, none of them is leading you towards solutions. All of them are focusing on a problem. But again, when you show up as you understand that you're the answer, now biochemically, neurologically, you actually have answers. So it's not just some fluff and some pat on your back mindset information. It's actually showing up and giving yourself the best capability to be the best you in all circumstances.
Yes. That is so good. I mean, like, just even the idea of coming into the room, knowing who you are versus being a question to be solved. You guys, that's being it till you see it. Coming into the room as like that, that's just what it is.
Exactly.
This is amazing. This is so good because I think I get really good at catching the imposter syndrome when it's happening. Like I'm like, oh, I'm feeling the fear. This is a worry. This is me upper limiting. I'm sabotaging this right now. I actually know the answer. I kind of like talk myself through it. And I have told myself that is fine and normal and wonderful. Am I wrong? And is overcoming imposter syndrome mean I don't even have the moments like that, or that I actually recognize them and understand them to be false and can move forward with what I know?
That is a huge victory. That's a huge victory. So if we were to look back on our lives, right? Yourself, myself, anybody who's listening or watching, there's a time when that wasn't happening. Yeah. There's a time when you would spiral into negativity and worry and stress and whatever the things are. So I tell people this, life mastery isn't a moment, it's a journey, but it's a journey that has moments. And so in those times like that, what I invite my people to invest in is recognize those moments and celebrate the fact that, wow, I'm changing, I'm transforming, I'm growing. And it's those times when you recognize it where you're like, what I tell people is this, it's not that negative emotions aren't happening or these thoughts won't come in, but they have no place to land. And they don't get to manipulate your life anymore. That's a huge victory. And then they'll become far and far in between. And then you'll find there's greater and greater levels of stress and challenge you can walk into without even having them show up. And you find out about it afterwards. You're like, I just locked into what I needed to do and got this thing done. I didn't even think about it. Yeah. So it comes in stages, but every one of them is a celebration because every one of them is, Lesley or Mark or whoever the person is listening. It's you transforming and changing, becoming that person. Again, that hero in hiding showing up.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for that compliment. Now I'm doing a great job. And
you are, though. That's amazing.
Yeah. No. And I also like what's really cool is they're fewer and farther. They don't happen next to each other, which is really great. And when they do, it's usually the same one twice. I was like, okay, hold on. You didn't really stop and think about that. Yes, listener, I have lots of conversations with myself. I'm an Aquarius. We're in our head a lot. You are a wealth of knowledge. I feel like we could all take weekend courses with you, but we're going to take a brief break and find out how we can take your course, read your amazing book, and learn more from you. All right, Mark. So you said you've got a book and a course. They kind of go together, but I can read the book if I'm wanting to do the light version or if I need to go all in. Tell me more about where I can find these things and which one I need.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, where can you find them? I try and be a one-stop shop. So everything is on my website, which is freedom-4-life.net. freedom-4-life.net. Well, what's the difference between the two? Well, there's those folks who are like myself, and maybe you, Lesley, you seem to be that type that, I don't want the appetizer. I want the whole meal. I want that one-on-one coaching. I want everything so that I know I have those things, right? It's the all-in-one process. So that's the course. The course has all of those in there. But the book has value, and it has value in that those folks who are like, I want to find some nuggets. I want to do some things that are really changing my life. I want to engage in this. I really don't know where to start. The book is a great way to do that. I have it as an ebook version on my website. And the reason for that is I have hard copy. You can get those at Amazon, but I love the fact that you can carry it around on your phone because it's an ebook. So you can have it anywhere that you're at. So at any time you have. So I know you're having a lot of business professionals that don't have a lot of time. You always have it available.
That's cool. I like what you even said about the book. You can learn something today, use it this week, and transform it in the month. Or I'm misquoting you, but that's what it felt like. And I experienced in the month, and I actually think that that's really cool. And so if even people are like, I'm not sure I can trust myself, I think you could start there, and then you can always go to the course. You can do whatever you want, guys, but whatever's been called to. But I really like this. And also thanks for having a one-stop shop. Makes it really easy on where everyone can click. It's in the show notes, guys. All right. You have literally given so much. I think there's so many different parts we can go back and re-listen, but we cannot end without our bold, executable, intrinsic, targeted steps to be it till you see it. What do you have for us?
Yeah. So the first thing is the one that we talked about. It's that I am statement. Do not move past that until you do that. Anything you do to try and create mantras and things that you tell yourself, affirmations, if they're not tied to who you are, then they're really you becoming an imitation of somebody else. So start with that I am statement. Who you are apart from your things. The reason why that's important is we have a 3-step transformational process, mastering your thoughts, words, and actions. I'll unpack thoughts really quickly. And it is this: who you think you are, you'll become. Lesley, you're as successful as you are because you believed at some level you'd be that person someday. Well, for all of us here, you're not going to be that person you're created to be in every area until you believe it, until you think it. And so that starts with thoughts. Well, what do those thoughts do? They allow you to have actions towards the person you're created to be. What thoughts should you align with? Well, start with your I am statement. I do affirmations, and I tell everybody to do affirmations multiple times a day because life happens multiple times a day. Thoughts happen multiple times a day. And so I remind myself of who I'm created to be with my I am statement. Again, that's the affirmation you're going to use aligned with who you are. And second thing, and this will be the last for us right now, what are the words that you're saying? Interesting things about vocalization and words, they do two things. They confirm who you believe you are, and they give you instructions to live out. Cognitively, your brain listens to what you're saying, and it finds ways of aligning with that. So when you're minimizing who you are, when you're maximizing the issues and challenges in your life, you're focusing on the things you can't control and the ones that hold you back. When I continue to speak towards the things that I am and who I am, and those same vocalizations are in the things that I'm going to do. I am a person of solutions and answers. I find quality answers for every problem that I walk through. You're going to give yourself instructions to live them out. They align with your thoughts, align with who you're created to be, your I am statement. And now that man or woman starts to show up in every area of your life. What's your I am statement? What are you telling yourself? Your thoughts are either aligning with who you're created to be or they're lying to you. And it's the same with your words. What actions are you giving yourself to live out? What confirmation have you given of who you believe you are? They're either aligned with your I am statement and who you're created to be, or they're lying to you. The more you tell yourself the truth, the more you see yourself show up as a hero that you're created to be.
Oh my freaking goodness. So good. I love all of these. I'm really into it. We just had someone I just interviewed who actually was talking about we have to redefine words we're saying to ourselves, because oftentimes we'll say something, it's just like, rephrase it or redefine it, because the words you say matter and they make a big difference. So this is a double dose. It's a sign, everyone, that we all need to be doing this. So Mark Collins, thank you so much. You guys, the book is Life Mastery. So is the course. Please take a look at his amazing work, re-listen to this. And I think we all have a friend who needs to hear this. I think we all do. I already can't wait for Brad to hear it. So please share this with a friend, because not only will that change their life. And here's the thing, when your friends' lives change and they start to be more positive and they don't have imposter syndrome, you do too. We are the average of the people we hang out with. So it's really important that we help other people be it till they see it. So thank you all so very much. And until next time, be it till you see it. Bye. That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day. Be It Till You See It is a production of the Bloom Podcast Network. If you want to leave us a message or a question that we might read on another episode, you can text us at +1 310 905 5534 or send a DM on Instagram at BeItPod.
It's written, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell.
It is transcribed, produced, and edited by the epic team at Disenyo.co.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to Melissa Solomon for creating our visuals.
Also to Angelina Herrico for adding all of our content to our website. And finally, to Meredith Root for keeping us all on point and on time.